Welcome back. So we're in between the second and third period between the San Jose Sharks and the Seattle Kraken. So this is my chance to do a news of the day video for all you fine people, which is, it's no longer day. In fact, on the East Coast, it's almost midnight. So for me, it's still Sunday. So there you go. Riga Dinamo, or Dinamo Riga, depending on, and again, I know Riga Dinamo is right, but on this side of the pond, we often refer to it as Dinamo Riga, out of Latvia. They've left the KHL, and I looked it up. Now, while Jokerit may technically still end up being in the KHL next year, Riga is just like, you know what, forget this. And it sounds like they're just gone out of the KHL. So another team is by the wayside. And, you know, we're going to see what happens with the KHL from here. And then, you know, and similar news, and I'll jump down to this. The IIHF meets tomorrow on Monday to discuss Russia, and the Swiss Federation, the Swiss Ice Hockey, comes out and says we don't want them in here. So for Russian athletes right now, this can be a tough time. They've been there's sanctions with the soccer. There's not going to be any World Cup soccer games played in Russia. When they play games outside of Russia, they can't use their anthem. They can't go by, I guess their team jerseys probably will be different. Think like at the Olympics, skiers, they're not invited either. The one thing is that Russia has taken a lot of pride in their athletics, and they're very highly competitive. So while we can debate how much that affects things, it is going to have an effect. It may be a very minor effect, but it is going to have an effect. So yeah, the IIHF meets tomorrow to decide what's going to be done. This will affect the World Juniors. This will affect the World Championship. This also may affect what happens with Russian-born players next season. Elliot Friedman reporting that there's some concerns about, you know, depending on what happens between now and next season, how are visas going to work? Would Russian players maybe have trouble getting visas to come over and play in North America? So that's part of the developing story of what's going on right now. And then Friedman also reporting last night, but again, it's hockey all day today, so I didn't really have time. And I'd like to really get into it in a video. And the thing is, if I was going to do a video on it, I'd have to approach it a different way, because otherwise it just sounds like you're picking on Arizona. And it feels like picking on Arizona. It does. So the team sitting down with management, Javier Gutierrez sitting down with them, and Matthew Schneider, they're representing the NHLPA, and basically they just want to know what's going on and what the plan is. And they want to understand, you know, with moving into the ASU arena, how this is all going to work. And there's some concern about full transparency from the team, that the players feel like they're kind of in the dark on all this too. My guess is the ASU announcement caught them off guard. And also the concern that some players that are, you know, for the next 3 years are going to play out of ASU, and a lot of players won't be there at the end of that time. So it may be harder for them to attract players to play for them for a while. And then what Elliot Friedman said as well, which kind of rang true to me as a Canuck fan, because I remember this, is that if a team has a reputation with players that's negative, that can impact the franchise going forward. I remember the late 90s Canucks, and I remember when players would get traded to other teams, and as a fan thinking, they've got to be in that locker room talking about how awful it is in Vancouver, and Vancouver ends up on a lot of no-trade lists coming out of that. So, like, just players are asked, where do you not want to go? I don't want to go there, and it might be because the team's just a disaster, there's a lot of fracturing in the locker room, or in the case of Arizona, if the franchise is seen as being very opaque and not being upfront with its players and talking to them about what's going on, if the franchise is seen as being unstable, whether it is or isn't, is not the point. If that's the perception, that's going to affect their ability to get players. So the idea that they're going through this rebuild and they're going to get better, great. But you need to be able to keep players around. And it's a debate we've had with Ottawa too, right? And it's a debate we've had with, on some level, Columbus. I don't put Columbus necessarily in the same category, but there are certain teams, Buffalo, right, where you ask yourself, if I'm a Buffalo Sabre and I get traded out, am I telling other guys, I am so glad to be here, you are not going to believe how bad it is there? Because players gossip. Yes, hockey players, they gossip a lot. Anyways, so yeah, for Arizona, apparently Javier Gutierrez was as upfront as he could be, And this might be the first of a few meetings between the team and the players. They have to have a good relationship with their players. They have to have a roster that's on board with what's going on, and they have to know what the plan is. And all I could think when I heard this was, and Nick Ritchie just got there, and he's probably, if he was at this meeting, and I don't see why he wouldn't have been, he has to be thinking, wow, I don't know, I the most stable franchise in the league in terms of just stability, they're never going anywhere, is Toronto. Now I'm in Arizona, where there's always that rumor and always that feeling. So the Coyotes have a lot of work ahead of them. It's not just creating, an environment where they can build a new arena in Tempe or just outside of Tempe, whatever ends up happening. They have to be able to come up with a plan of long-term success. And so that's why I think there needs to be a video done, and I need to look at franchises' low points and how you come out of that. And it may end up being pretty detailed. So, and just look at where Arizona's at and that kind of thing. So I'll work on that. That's the plan. So Blake Wheeler, and I have to say he's kind of right and he's kind of wrong. So he says basically he gets into it with a reporter, and refers to it as, I think he said, a pissing contest. And it clearly was a reporter that has had some negative things to say about the Jets, and saying basically that, they don't get the praise they deserve and they get too much criticism. And he's kind of right. He's kind of wrong too. Wheeler has had some rightful criticism at times. I also think he's had too much criticism at other times, where I'll watch a couple of games, I'll think, hey, Wheeler's playing pretty well right now. And then I look at the internet and I go, well, apparently everybody thinks he's garbage. News to me. But I do think that he got a little bit too testy over what I thought was a pretty basic question. And that's where that line is of, okay, just give an answer, and being confrontational and all that. I don't know. It didn't come off great. And of course, this is still in the shadow of what happened with the Draisaitl incident, which I thought, in that case, the reporter just kept pushing. And in this case, I thought Wheeler just, the Rod Burgundy, well, that escalated quickly. That came to mind when I saw that. So the Jets have had a struggle this year. They're below the playoff line. People should rightfully be asking questions about where the problem lies, what's fallen apart. Is it something with the leadership, which was the question? Is there, and I understand if he doesn't want to answer the question, then just flat out say, I can't answer that. I'm a part of the team. But I thought it was fair. I thought the way that it was phrased wasn't really that, in your face, and he got kind of mad about it. San Jose news. Now they're playing tonight without Mario Ferraro. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. He had surgery for a fractured fibula, which sounds very painful. So hopefully he has a speedy recovery. The Sharks also making some news. I haven't seen this reported yet on websites, but they said it on the game here. Erik Karlsson may play this Saturday. So he is well ahead of where he was supposed to be in his recovery. And he could very well come back and play for the San Jose Sharks as soon as next weekend, which is good, because San Jose going into the trade deadline having a healthy roster, it's easier to make some moves here and there. There are some young players that I think have impressed. There are some other players who are probably on their way out. And so, yeah, if you have everybody healthy, I think it's easier to make those moves. Also, Adam Fox has hit the 50-point mark. He did it in 50 games. So he's the fastest New York Rangers defenseman to reach that mark since Brian Leetch did it in 44 games in 2000-2001. In fairness to Fox, Leetch was an elite offensive defenseman who's Hall of Famer and was one of the absolute best defensemen I ever watched in terms of all-around defensemen. So Fox may eventually hit 50 points in 44 games, sure, but yeah, Brian Leetch is at that next level. And so, yeah, good for Fox. It's been a long time since a Rangers defenseman did that. So, yeah, all the best to him. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding any of these items. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.